The incredible series finale of the Owl House was jam-packed with so many details that it's going to take just as long as the episode itself to break all of it down. So I hope you got your popcorn ready and prepare to say goodbye one more time. And shout out to the homie Rebecca Rose for supplying a lot of fun trivia about this episode. With all that said, let's dive in. The series finale picks up exactly where the previous special, For the Future, left off. After teleporting to the skull of the Titan and watching Luce's palisman, String Bean, take form, the squad's victory is swiftly cut short by the Collector, who, with a snap of his fingers, captures everyone around Luce, turning them into puppets, and ensnares Luce in an illusion. But as she's unconscious, she briefly returns to the in-between realm once more, where the Titan, properly named here as Papa Titan, calls out to her saying she needs to wake up. But before Luce can make any sense of it, she suddenly finds herself on the Emperor's throne, wearing the Emperor's garments. Bringing us to the third and final variation of the Owl House logo, and I called it in my For the Future breakdown. This variation is themed around Belos. The way Albert's eyes began to glow gave me chills. I also love how the lack of any music in this moment allows us to really focus on the Titan's beating heart, letting us know right from the get-go that the Titan's physical body will play a pivotal role in this episode. We already hit one of my favorite details in this finale as Luce and String Bean traverse the empty castle. She walks past a stained glass mural that mirrors the one we saw all the way back in season 1's Agony of a Witch. This time, however, instead of Belos standing in front of the Titan's gigantic hand, it's now Amity wearing the Golden Guard's uniform, mask and all. And I don't think they have a super cute relationship in this twisted timeline, all things considered. Furthermore, this mural actually foreshadowed the climax of this episode and the series as a whole. Belos' attempt to rumble the boiling isles with the Titan's body only made it as far as raising his hand to the heavens, which is exactly what is depicted in this mural. I'm a sucker for darkest timeline AUs. So although they didn't dive too much into what an Emperor Luce universe looks like, I'm glad we at least got this. Some fun breadcrumbs for fans to work with. Luce reasonably freaks out after stumbling upon the petrified bodies of various beloved characters. I won't lie, I kinda laughed at Tinella here. She's then confronted by a replica of Amity, who pins all of this on Luce for helping Belos meet the Collector, which of course, Luce already thinks is the biggest mistake she's ever made. Amity then attacks Luce, which I'm pretty sure gave every Lumity fan on the planet a heart attack, illusion or not. Meanwhile, Ida's nightmare places her in the Conformatorium, harkening back to both the first episode and season 1 finale. Ida's worst fear unfolds before her very eyes as Lilith and Gwendolyn turn her into the authorities, treating her as a dangerous animal who needs to be caged up. The reasoning for this is a heartbreaking one, as Del walks out with his other eye clawed out and bleeding, implying that Ida's greatest fear isn't her family turning on her. At least, not just that, but what she's really afraid of is losing control and hurting her loved ones again. And it's portrayed in a way where it isn't the owl beast she has to keep at bay. She's accepted it as a part of herself. But by assuming her harpy form, this nightmare conveys that she's afraid she won't be able to keep herself at bay, that she'll fail at holding herself accountable for the things she can control. King finds himself at Titan Trapper Island. I speculated that this would have been the Uncharted island he was abandoned at, but in hindsight, this location makes way more sense. After King realizes he's surrounded by hundreds of dead Titans, Bill catches him by surprise, with his own eyes eerily blacked out.
Bill!
It's funny hearing Alex Hirsch yell at someone named Bill. As to be expected, King hasn't recovered from Bill's attempt at killing him for a ritual, as his worst nightmare is being alone and defenseless as the Titan Trapper returns to finish the job. Luce's nightmare gets even more intense as the nightmare versions of her friends vocalize everything she blames herself for. First, she's brought to Willow's inner mind from understanding Willow. with Nightmare Willow accusing Luce of destroying her home and her future. The location then shifts to Hexai's Auditorium, where Gus is once again the master of ceremonies, just like in Enchanting Gromfright. But this time instead of Grom, it's the roast of Luce Naceda, Gus claiming he'll never see his dad again because of Luce. He then pushes her off the stage, and she lands right back at the castle, where Hunter stands before her, with a destroyed statue of Flapjack looming behind him. Nightmare Hunter's wearing the same outfit he wore the first time he met Flapjack, and he mourns his palisman while asking Luce why she gets to keep hers. Why does she get to have it all? All of these traumatic experiences her friends endured are the exact same things Luce beats herself up over, because she feels as if somehow she's the one who gets to walk away unscathed. But the reality is, she's impacted by all of this just as much as her friends are. One detail that I love is that these illusions lack highlights in their eyes, unlike Luce. Considering the only character in the series who normally lacks this detail is Belos, I've always looked at it as having a soulless look in one's eyes, to basically be dead inside. These replicas definitely back up that idea. Luckily, the Trauma Fest is brought to a halt when Nightmare Amity challenges Luce to a witch's battle, a slip-up that helps Luce catch on to what's really happening, because she knows that it's really called a witch's duel. I love this, because it encapsulates how much of a nerd Luce is, and I'd like to think all of us nerds have those moments where someone slightly misquotes a thing we love or gets a name wrong, and we do our best to bite our tongue and try not to correct them for being the frauds they are. It's not Kingdom of Hearts, Sally, it's just Kingdom Hearts! So because Luce is a stickler for continuity, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb when someone like Amity, the biggest Good Witch Azor fan Luce knows besides herself, calls something as sacred as a witch's duel by the wrong name. With Luce seeing right through the Collector's game, she agrees to duel her friends, but the Collector brings everything to a halt as he prepares to pull the illusions out of the dream, prompting everyone's true selves to shine through for a brief moment, with the highlights back in their eyes. They explain that the Collector has everyone under his control, and that Luce has to wake up, saying that the first thing you do when you wake up from a bad dream is turn on the light, handing her a light glyph before being yanked back into puppet purgatory. The light glyph being the key to breaking the Collector's magic actually makes a lot of sense. Not only does the whole turn on the light metaphor call back to how Luce was able to save Ida back in The Intruder, Ida getting trapped in her own nightmares whenever the Albies took over, but we also can't forget that Titan magic cancels out the Collector's magic. So, logically, glyphs are able to break seals and trances. We finally hit the title card 7 minutes into the finale as Luce wakes up in the Collector's Cosmic Playpen, with various items floating around the void. Some you find in a toy box like building blocks and the end of a paddle ball, but you can also spot one of the tablets the Collector was sealed in and a toy of Belos. Luce finds herself, King, and Ida on top of a glowing Rubik's Cube, where they're being tormented by the puppets of those they love and fear, confirming that the Collector did indeed trap the Titan Trappers. I get that they were on limited time with Season 3, but damn it, Disney! Why couldn't you have given them a little bit more time? So we could have had the Collector reunite with his cult, only to turn them all into toys after finding out they tried to kill King. Luce, Ida, and King finally reunite with a loving embrace. And, to the writers of the Owl House, I see what you did there.
Get over here, you witch!
Get away from her, you bitch!
We learn that these mind games were another suggestion by Belos, who's still controlling Rain's body. Belos questions why the Collector won't just wipe them out, to which the Collector explains that he wants to befriend Luce and Ida, on top of King being immune to his magic. This causes Belos to realize that not only is King a Titan, but that he has one more ace in the hole, the Titan's beating heart. So he distracts the Collector by providing a solution to his moral dilemma, suggesting that the Collector should go play games with the trio in person. Please tell me you guys also laughed at Belos being petty enough to knock Francois off the nightstand, because my entire squad was rolling at this. The Collector interrupts the heartwarming family reunion by questioning King's allegiance to Ida and Luce, as he can't fathom why King would favor mere mortals over a god. But after a little back and forth, it's clear that there's a lot of concepts that the Collector can't grasp, including death.
Toys break all the time. You just fix them. Do you? not understand what death means to mortals?
Meanwhile, Belos starts to face his own problems as Rain breaks free of both the Collector's seal and the Emperor's control, though Belos is able to fight back and retain his grip on Rain. As Belos says, Rain has always been powerful, but this development is very much in line with their character. This is the same person who resisted Terra Snapdragon's mind control. And we saw with Hunter that as long as your will is strong enough, you can fight against Belos' possession. And Hootie showed that even when people are turned into puppets, strong emotions can wake them up just enough to gain sentience and communicate. It seems as if Amity has retained enough sentience to start etching the light glyph into the floor of her finger, but I wonder why everyone else remains static. You know, aside from Amity being Amity, I assume has something to do with the power of love, but let me know your own interpretation in the comments below. The Collector throws Luz, Ida, and King into a series of games brought horrifically to life, including Pac-Man, Marbles, and Jenga. Each game seeing a member of the trio undermine the Collector in a different way. The third and final time bumming him out so much that he calls it quits. This paves the way for Luz to have a heart-to-heart with the demigod, in which the Collector reveals their severe trust issues that formed after being tricked by King, Belos, and especially the Archivists, his siblings. Being the youngest of the Archivists, the Collector seemed to be the odd one out and picked on by his siblings, who presumably found his desire to play games annoying. So they encouraged him to go to the Demon Realm and play a game of hide-and-seek with the Titans. A stealth mission he wasn't even aware of to observe the Titans. What the Archivists didn't expect was for the Collector to actually get along with the Titans, and personally, I think they were just hoping for the Collector and the Titans to kill each other. Once they found out the Titans could cancel out their magic, the Archivists would end up intervening and begin to wipe out the Titans one by one, presumably with the assistance of the Titan Trappers, leaving King's father as the last Titan standing. Papa Titan assumed Collector was just as bad as the others, so he hid King on the Uncharted Island and banished Collector to the In-Between Realm. But Collector believes he still came out on top, because in spite of everything, King's their friend. One line that stood out to me in his tangent is, even when those Trapper jerks started acting weird, implying that the Collector was rubbed the wrong way by the Titan Trappers worshipping him like he was some sort of spiritual leader. He just wanted to play a game, and they made it a cult. Luz makes an attempt to connect with the Collector by showing him how they all became friends, handing him one of her memory photographs from the last episode. Belos clearly needs some star driving lessons from Kirby as he crash lands at the castle, with Rain still fighting for control of their body and casting him out completely with their bard magic. But Belos plays it off, claiming only one vessel is big enough to pull off what he needs. Wait, shit, go back! As Rain chases Belos down through the castle, we can see that it's been vandalized by former members of the Emperor's Coven, who survived the draining spell. One mural that we actually first saw in Season 1 has all the witches crossed out below Belos, with Liar written below it. Across from this is another mural I don't think we've seen before, propaganda that depicts wild magic in a dangerous light. And although the most prominent witch in this image looks a lot like Ida shooting fire, I'm actually pretty sure it's Evelyn. The hair and outfit are slightly different from Ida's, and we can assume this image has been in the castle before Ida was even a student at Hexside. Not to mention it lines up with other depictions of her. While Rain's running up the stairs, we can see someone wrote, "I gave up my talisman for you." The hallway near the throne room has "I'm done" written on the wall, with graffiti of Belos' mask crossed out on the door. And the throne room itself has "I quit, fake" and "Liar" written across it. Belos confirms to Rain that this beating organ above his throne is none other than the Titan's heart, and then he bites Rain's arm because he's a dick. Bro's gonna need a rabies shot. Rain tries to stop Belos, but alas, the Emperor comes out on top, merging himself with the Titan's heart, spreading his essence all over the boiling aisles through a disgusting fungus, as the Titan's eye begins to glow. Elsewhere, Amity is able to complete her light glyph and free everyone from the Collector's magic, while Luz walks the Collector through her own journey as she takes him to the Owl House, the Grudge Me Field, where the surviving members of the rebellion flee, and we can't ignore the blatant plug for a Young Ida prequel series.
Did you know Lilith was her captain?
Really?
Now that's a spin-off I'd watch.
Their final destination is the Knee of the Isles, calling back to Adventures in the Elements, where the Collector points out that Papa Titan must really like Luce if he showed her his magic. After emphasizing the importance of kindness and forgiveness when reflecting on Lilith and Amity's own growth throughout the series, the gang is interrupted when they start to hear the Titan breathe. Trees and bones are shaking while the ground rumbles. It doesn't take long for them to piece together that this is Belos' doing. Act 2 kicks off with some dope guest animation by Small Boo, who was also featured in Amphibia's Season 2 finale, True Colors. Here, Small Boo handled the fungus animation alongside some other moments we'll spotlight later. They like to think these poor Coven Scouts and Tinella Noza are okay, though the rats got their payback at Tinella for what she did in The Intruder. As speculated, Belos' influence over the Boiling Isles with his fungus is very reminiscent of Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild, as Ganon has infected Hyrule Castle and the Divine Beast, spreading this purple gunk with glowing yellow eyes. It's not that much of a surprise given how much the team behind the Owl House loves Zelda, but it's still sick to see nonetheless. Small Boo mentioned on Twitter that they wanted the fungus to feel like it breathed in before leaping out into Dragon Belos, so that it had an eerie living quality to it. After Belos forms this dragon-like avatar, he declares,
"I can cleanse this perdition myself!"
And this line holds a lot of significance. Perdition is a term that hails from Christian theology, which means a state of eternal punishment and damnation into which a sinful and unpenitent person passes after death. Basically hell, or even a hellish purgatory. A lot of fans piece together that since Belos clearly drew inspiration from real-life witch hunters, he'd also be a zealot who uses religion to justify his bigotry and hateful rhetoric. By referring to the demon realm as a perdition that he's taking upon himself to cleanse by destroying it, the show really seems to be backing up this interpretation. This was also the very last line Matthew Rhys recorded for Belos, not counting any ADRs for small changes or stuff like that. He mainly didn't want to strain his voice mid-session, but in return, he was able to put everything he had into this read. And keep in mind, this was without any animation. All he would have had is a script. Yet he had one of the most powerful deliveries I've ever heard from any Disney villain. Collector tries to apply Luce's lessons of kindness and forgiveness to Belos. But you can't pull a Steven Universe or Naruto on this man. He's way too far gone. Belos fires up another blast, but Luce rushes in and takes the hit for Collector. Notice how the fungus covers up our side of the arm she got hit at. Luce tries to explain that Belos is a bit more complicated to deal with, but she quickly realizes that she's fading away, her body slowly turning into fungus and decomposing. In a way, this is Belos finishing the job that he started in King's Tide, when he petrified Luce. Another moment where she was slowly fading away, though this one is a lot more graphic, given that we saw the inside of her hollowed out head. And yeah, this is the moment that solidified Amphibia and Owl House as not just sister shows, but twins. But I mean that in the, you act nothing like your sister, but you two still remind me of each other way. They both have their own identities. Just like when Flapjack passed, Luce's body erodes into pure light, right in front of King and Ida. I really dug how they did this sad yet ambient Ghibli moment as we follow Luce's light particles around the Boiling Isles. I feel like not many animated series get to have a moment of silence to really let the emotions marinate. And even when trapped as a puppet, Camilla's motherly intuition knows something has gone horribly wrong with Luce, shedding tears over the loss of her daughter. Now, what I find really interesting is that the Collector tried to revive Luce, but thanks to Belos' control over the Isles, the Titan's magic cancels out the Collector's. But would this have actually worked? Would there have been a bit of credits to the Collector's perception of death by restoring Luce's physical form? I guess we'll never know. But if Archivists can resurrect the dead, then they truly are OP. Consumed by grief, King enters in an enraged state that's more feral, slightly growing in size with sharp teeth and glowing purple eyes. I speculated before that King would have a transformation similar to Chopper from One Piece. And while this isn't exactly that, lacking a substantial growth spurt, he's getting there. His magic is stronger in this form, forming larger sonic waves, and he's even able to form a barrier that features some of his new Titan glyphs. Ida also enters a new enraged form that has 6 wings, glowing orange eyes and mouth, and is much closer to her look in Season 1 whenever she succumbed to the Owl Beast. The last of Luce's light reaches the in-between realm, where she can hear the Titan's beating heart as she sinks lower into the abyss. Fortunately, Papa Titan pulls her out, finally being introduced as a proper character in the series. Now, I know y'all are probably wondering about the tiny little hootie coming out of his eye that's not really acknowledged, but remember, all demon life on the Boiling Isles came from the Titan's decomposing body. So much like how creepy crawlies can get into our corpses, it's a bit of a trope to have worms coming out of a dead body. I think this little guy is supposed to infer where Hootie came from, the Titan's eye, and somehow winded up as the door to the Owl House so he can keep an eye on things. But yeah, this little Hootie had to be thinking that the Titan stopped breathing and ended up in the in-between realm the moment life began to sprout from his body. As you may have noticed, the Titan is voiced by Aaron Hansen, aka Eagle Raptor, known for his web animations, Game Grumps, and nothing else at all that would meme up my comments section. This isn't Aaron's first time voicing a character in the Owl House, but it's definitely been the most prominent role he had. I know this show aired when I was in high school. I would have lost my mind hearing Aaron, since that was definitely when I watched Game Grumps the most. The Titan is the ultimate Owl House fan, with this avatar of his soul wearing a Bad Girls Coven t-shirt and Glyph sweatpants, which the Mystery Shack is making!
Always get what I want!
I love that they leaned into the Titan being a total dad. I think it's the perfect kind of juxtaposition to the cool yet eerie skeleton we've been staring at all series. He also quotes King from Enchanting Gromfrite, saying that he's the king and queen, best of both things! Which makes sense, given that Titans reproduce by laying eggs. And I assume they don't need another Titan to fertilize those eggs. This episode finally digs into what exactly the in-between realm is. As the name implies, it is a realm between all worlds, but it's also the realm between life and death. Since the Titan has been slowly dying for hundreds, if not thousands of years, his soul ended up here, where he's been keeping an eye on King ever since. And after Luce arrived in the demon realm and became good friends with King, the Titan started showing her magic. And to drive home how well they set up this twist, think back to the very first time Luce saw a glyph. It was towards the end of Season 1, Episode 4, The Intruder. It was kinda confusing how her phone was somehow able to pick up on the light glyph, right? Well, not really, because Season 2's mid-season finale, Yesterday's Lie, made it a point to establish that beings in the in-between realm can interact with all the other worlds through the various floating cubes. And how that works is that whoever's looking at a cube appears on a reflective surface in one of the worlds, including phones. It's how Luce got Camila's attention. So all this time, Papa Titan was watching through a cube in the in-between realm. And through that cube, he revealed the light glyph to Luce in a moment of need. Now, I don't think every single instance of the Titan helping Luce was him holding one of these cubes, as episodes like Adventures in the Elements seem to be him manipulating the weather itself. I'm glad that a chunk of Luce in the Titan's conversation focuses on the difference between Luce and Belos. Luce questions what separates people like her and Papa Titan from people like Belos, if the goal is to protect the people they love. And not only is Papa Titan flabbergasted by the comparison, but he perfectly explains that Belos isn't sincere in his intentions. He just has a hero complex. Throughout the show, we've seen how Luce is willing to remove herself from the equation if it means helping others, while Belos will do anything to put himself in the spotlight and prop himself up as a hero to the detriment of others. He doesn't care about anyone other than himself. And in his front to save mankind, all he's done is strip himself of his own humanity. He's a fraud who's committed to his own delusion, no matter who he hurts. As Papa Titan offers Luce the last of his life in order to save her own, his arm is decked out with glowing glyphs. And if that seems familiar, it's because we saw that Belos carved a similar pattern to his arm back when he was Philip. We know that Papa Titan did his best to hide his magic from Belos. And given the crazy shit we've seen Belos do throughout the series, I have a feeling that while some of his magic came from the souls of Palisman, some of it also came from these glyph tattoos. I think the Palisman souls just gave him the ability to shapeshift and eventually possess people as Goop, alongside his monster form. But tricks like invading minds or the slew of his illusions he pulled against Luce came from the tats. I also love how the finale highlights the importance of Luce choosing herself, with Papa Titan's words here echoing the same thing Ida said to her back in Witches Before Wizards, the second episode of the series.
But if we all waited around for a prophecy to make us special, we'd die waiting. And that's why you need to choose yourself.
So the question is, will you choose yourself?
The Owl House is a story of self-acceptance, so while we all knew Luz wasn't going to stay dead, they still gave it a lot of weight by tying Luz's resurrection to her own self-acceptance as she gets the ultimate reassurance. I know if a Titan is telling me I'm worthy, I'm not going to question them. And I adore that the Titan's words to King were also his last words in general, as he turns into a gigantic, majestic skeleton. The music here really got me emotional. Brad Breek popped off with the score. Camila wakes up, free from her puppet prison, and immediately asks where Luz is. Her friends, unsure of her fate but scared the worst has happened, all react in different ways. Notably, Amity clenches her heart and Hunter tugs onto his long strand of hair. I play with my locks a lot, so I felt that one. Everyone's exhausted their magic, but Camila motivates them, confident Luz is gonna continue to survive, and encourages everyone else to help her out by freeing their friends and families from the archives with glyphs. It all comes full circle. King and Ida continue to battle Belos, while the Collector discovers he's been hit by the flames, briefly starting to comprehend the idea of mortality. But right before Belos can smash the three into pieces, Luz arrives on the scene in her brand new form, Titan Luz, referred to by the Owl House crew as Luzin, who was designed by Matthew Cousin. I mentioned in my ending explained that this form is reminiscent of Bleach and some of Ichigo's transformations, both aesthetically and narratively. But if we're being real, I think main character gets magic power up from some kind of deity has become a bit of a trope in storytelling, especially in shonen. But she really does exude Ichigo energy with that fit. The fungus battle was also animated by Small Boo, and there were some nice callbacks within this battle. Ida helps Luz form her first spell circle, a full circle moment, as it once again allows Ida to be her mentor. And the way they form a shield against the fungus echoes Ida and Lilith's duel in Convention. King and Luz use her sonic shout together, and the three form a giant light glyph that neutralizes a good chunk of the fungus. The trio shoot up the stars as Belos tries to raise the Titan's arm. They never directly say what he's planning to do with the Titan's body, but I think it's obvious from the destruction it's caused just by moving an arm that it wouldn't take too much activity to kill everyone on the Isles. And look at the other Titans that surround Papa Titan's body. The Demon Realm has so much unexplored potential, and I really hope we get to see more of it someday. Knowing where magic comes from, the three decide to go right for the heart and slam themselves back into the castle. It really felt like the finishing blow on a video game. Sonic especially, given the visual similarities between the glyph orb Luz encased everyone in, and Super Sonic's homing attack. Small Boo punched up this little bit where Rain and Ida reunite, despite not being assigned to these shots. They're just big fans of the Raida ship. Likewise, my friend. Also, Rain's new tear-shaped scars go insanely hard. I know the cosplays are about to pop off. And Tom Barco animated Luz delivering the final blow on Belos. He also guest animated the Lumity kiss back in Clouds on the Horizon, and the fight between the squad and Bunter in thanks to them. Glad he got to contribute to another one of the show's biggest moments. He brought his signature flair that you can find more of in Rise of the TMNT and Lego Monkey Kid. After Luz gives her long-awaited Good Witch Lazora speech, she finishes the battle with a callback to the very first episode. The fungus erodes away and the Boiling Isles is saved. But we can't roll the credits just yet because Belos survived all of this insanity, albeit on his last legs. He tries to assume a younger, more innocent look as Philip Whittabane. And how can he be evil? He has the highlights in his eyes! And yeah, instead of having Philip's voice actor, Alex Lothar, it's just Matthew Rhys. Less hassle that way. Belos is starting to fall apart and melt into nothing after boiling rain falls upon the Isles. Rain that I suspect Luz summoned with the last of her Titan magic. You may disagree, but the rain only lasted for 30 seconds, and Luz was depowered shortly after. Either way, it's poetic that Belos was defeated by the nature of the world he was so desperate to destroy. And Luz is looking down at him the same way Caleb's ghost did in For the Future. But the cherry on top is without a doubt Ida, Rain, and King being the ones to take him out for good by stomping him out of existence. I wish Hunter got in on this. The Titan spirit is expelled from Luz's body as he passes on to the afterlife. and Luz delivers his message to King. I loaf you. Bread pun! Calling back to King's love for bread puns and really small problems. The skies of the demon realm return to their original green color that we saw in Elsewhere and Elsewin, signifying a new era free of Belos' control. Nature is healing. All we get of Odalia is her sour stare at Alador and Amity as the father and daughter reunite, but I imagine that's mostly a time thing. Let's just assume they got divorced. Again, she supplied Belos with abomatons, knowing that his end goal was genocide. I just don't know how you can bounce back from that. Willow's dads finally have their first on-screen kiss, and Hunter finally has a real father figure in his life as he reunites with Darius and Epperwolf. The inhabitants of the Boiling Isle start to rebuild their society tyrant-free. But there's an adjustment period between corrupted Coven heads like Terra Snapdragon, Adrian Gray, and whoever the potions dude is trying to seize the throne. I hope any future content we get for the series gets to flesh out the Coven heads a bit more. If you're wondering why this one Coven scout is green, it's because this scout is an incidental from the Day of Unity, as scouts from all Covens were flying in to witness the event. And if you're wondering why most of this montage is silent, save for Luz's narration, that just comes down to time and budget. Even for the finale, it wouldn't have been too manageable to get everyone in just for a line or two. Showbiz, baby! I love how Ida said she would put on the charm when she met Camila, only to meet her with a nervous, wide smile on her face. She definitely wanted to make a good first impression. The Collector also reunites Lilith with Hootie, who, despite not having any speaking lines in the finale, still got a moment to shine with this beautiful close-up. The Collector recognizes how much work he has to do on himself and decides to return to the stars. So King gives him Francois as a reminder of their time together and their promise to keep improving as people. Again, this was a resolution to his character that I'm pretty happy with. I'm glad he didn't get sealed away again or decide to live in the demon realm acting as if nothing ever happened. And in a moment that initially broke my heart the same way watching the Calamity Box crumble did, Luz realizes that glyphs no longer work, signifying an end to this chapter of her life, only being able to cast magic with her talisman. Or so she thinks. I'm a sucker for bittersweet endings, so although they kind of backtrack on this decision in the epilogue, I thought this was a good way to tie up glyph magic. It was something unique to Luz that put her on par with other witches on the Isles, but that was also when she was using the Boiling Isles as an escapist fantasy, aspiring to be the best witch she could be. Now this place is a second home to her, where witches are just people, and she doesn't need magic to be on par with her peers, because she can just be herself, knowing confidently that the real magic wasn't in the glyphs, it was in herself. As corny as that sounds. After a massive time skip, we fast forward to Luz preparing to leave for college. Packing a box that contains Ida's jacket, her Grom tiara, the Tamagotchi she gave to Amity, and a few more things. Originally, the box was going to have the Azura costume, but Dana requested to have it changed to Ida's jacket, which I think was for the best, given that there was already the Azura book, and Luz was putting in an Azura figure. Luz now wears Amity's necklace, a purple striped shirt that's likely a reference to what she wore in the pilot, and a dark purple shirt with a snake on it. And how can I forget the flapjack tattoo? The patches on her pants are different school subjects, plus an abomination cat to represent Amity, and the shoes are a nod to Good Witch Azura. We see photos of her graduating with V, showing they maintained a close sibling relationship throughout the years, continued to have adventures on Earth and in the demon realm with her friends. Ida convinced Camila to try apple blood, love seeing these two moms hit it off, and Ida now wears Rain's earrings. And the gang even had another Grom. But the most heartwarming photo of the bunch has to be King finally getting the chance to play catch through a baseball game with Ida and Hootie. That's just the sweetest thing. Luz's scholarship is signed by series creator Dana Terrace, and one of her essays is hung by a pin of Polly from Amphibia. And in classic Luz fashion, she couldn't just settle on one major, so she's going for all of them. Explaining that although she hasn't had glyph magic, her and Stringbean have figured out a way to perform spells. Throughout the rest of this epilogue, we're given a ton of information. The Nosedas bought the old abandoned house as it has a new portal door installed, which I found to be sweet since I'm pretty sure this house used to belong to Caleb and Evelyn. It was the Earth Owl House, and after all this time, it still is. People now inhabit the Titan's raised arm, as we can see a bunch of architecture on it. Willow's new look sees her wearing the Emerald Intros jersey and thicker, more sporty glasses, alongside a new haircut and leaves in her headband. And of course, a flapjack tattoo. Hunter is embracing his roots and has taken up palisman carving. Carving one for Brax's, Palistrom wood is once again abundant in the Isles, as Hunter is helping the Bat Queen and Dell take care of the palisman. I was expecting him to stay on Earth, but I like that he still lives on the Isles, as it helps emphasize this ending's message of group healing. He also no longer has any eye bags. His work apron is something he made himself, and the patches are meant to represent Darius, Gus, and Willow. And he chose to put his flapjack tattoo where his sigil used to be. He also wears human shoes to be more casual, to distance himself from his time in the Emperor's Coven, where he wore a uniform 24/7. He also has a new talisman named Waffles, who Dana likes to think as Flapjack's little sister. I also love how the Bat Queen's kids have developed their own fashion sense. Little fun detail, Bartholomew's name is now properly spaced out in the credits. Glad they cleared that up. The flowers on Flapjack's tombstones are forget-me-nots, which brings me to tears, but also, don't worry Flapjack, we'd never forget you! The Isles is still in the rebuilding stages after all these years, but have largely recovered. Kikimora's finally helping out, and Bartholomew finally grew an actual mustache. Lilith is still working at the library with the help of Foodie and Amity, who seems to have recovered a book on the war between the Titans and the Archivists. Amity's new look sees her wear the Grom crystals as a part of her hairpiece. And the belt and abomination pants are meant to be reminiscent of her outfit in Reaching Out. The idea for this new look was Witchy Pirate. We finally see Lilith's harpy form, implying she's come to terms with her half of the curse as well. And we see Rain's talisman for the first time. It's a fox. Their talisman is actually also their instrument, so we've kind of been seeing them the whole time. Various characters like Barkus have the new symbol of the Boiling Isles, which is the skull of the Titan, and Bump has a hoodie patch from Luce on his apron. He also may be retired, but considering we didn't see a new head of Hexside, I'm gonna assume he hasn't yet. Speaking of which, Hexside is back up and running with all the students learning from multiple tracks like Luce once did, and Elidor has finally cracked the code on removing sigils. And the first which we see have a sigil removed is the first one we saw get a sigil placed on him back in Convention. I love how this is a mutual effort, as it illustrates that moving on from Belos requires group healing. After all, his actions impacted everyone. Also, Darius and Aldor shippers rejoiced at this little moment between the two. I'm happy that at the very least, these two are friends again, but I would love if this implies more. And Alador has a patch with symbols that represent his kids. And not Odalia, fuck her. And we get plenty of cameos from the team behind the Owl House. Rebecca has a full thread I'll link below, so I don't screw up pronouncing anyone's name. In the center of the Boiling Isles, where the castle used to be, now lies the University of Wild Magic, which is, for all intents and purposes, an actual owl house. A giant tree! Professors at this university include the Keeper of the Looking Glass Ruins, Edric, Gus, who finally has locks and glasses, basically becoming my clone once again, and is running an exchange program, implying that the human realm and demon realm have actually formed some pretty strong relations. Both Gus and V wear patches that represent the exchange program, and Gus's demonstration of a paperclip mirrors exactly what he was doing when we first saw his Human Appreciation Club. The headmaster of this university is none other than Ida, which is a perfect end for her, given that it was established in Season 1 that she actually does love learning, she just didn't thrive in the system that Belos created. This also once again brings things full circle, because she's finally Luce's mentor again. She also has a sick hook where her right arm used to be. The Basilisks have Ida's instrument outside her office, and there are pics of Rain, Luce, and King outside of it. Ida's got some various pictures in her office that we've seen before, and she also has the flower associated with her and Rain. The credits give a special thanks to quite a bit of people, but I want to highlight Dana's family, Matt Brawley, the creator of Amphibia, which give a special thanks to Dana in the credits for its finale, and the Animation Guild. I'm really glad they got their props. King, now having his initials engraved on his collar, has gone through a noticeable growth spurt, but is still far off from becoming the absolute colossus his father was. Camila and V escort Luce to her quinceañera, a special celebration to thank Luce for helping her build the Boiling Isles to her 15th, 16th, and 17th birthday. So you know, she missed when her actual quinceañera would have been. The Echo Mouse presenting her dress is a clear callback to Cinderella as well. King also reveals that he's able to create glyphs of his own, though they're different from his father's, with the new light glyph now including Titan horns. Talk about sequel bait. After everyone watches a light show courtesy of the collector, they thank him and the audience by waving goodbye. No Odalia in sight? Even Tibbles made it in! Sucker! And with that, the Owl House comes to a close. And what a beautiful journey it was. I had so much fun breaking down this show and theorizing with you guys. I'm really gonna miss it, but the fun doesn't stop here, because we still have a lot of Owl House content in the pipeline. And before we sign off, it's time to celebrate you guys with the Final Fan Spotlight. Hit it! Let's take a moment to not only celebrate the Owl House, but you guys, and your awesome art with our Fan Spotlight. What did you guys think of the Owl House finale? Let us know in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going by giving us a follow over at Roundtable Vids and at Vox on Twitter and Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please sure to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. See you later!